You said that now you're like really booked out. You have 10 clients right now. I
Yeah.
think it'll help a lot of people to hear like where you're landing those clients, how they're finding you, if it's like connections or things like that. I'd love to hear. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my Wine and Design podcast. Super excited today because I'm going to be having a special guest on. She's one of my students. She's a super successful designer. Her name is Andria, and I'm so excited to talk with her because one of my goals with anything and everything is to always help and see the success from other designers. And I feel like as a designer in my third year of running my business, and also I started designing like 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago. So it's kind of hard for me to know now how people are kicking off their business and getting those clients. And Andria has so many awesome tips for any designers. She's been designing for a long time as well, but she is really increasing her amount of clients every month. And she's been seeing a lot of success with the things that she's been doing to land those clients. So I'm super excited to have her share all those tips with you guys. But definitely go give her a follow. And I am going to be having a lot more of my students on. So if you want to learn from designers that might be in a similar situation to you, definitely be sure to follow my podcast or go subscribe on YouTube to listen to more. But let's get right into the podcast. That's amazing that you're so busy right now. That's awesome. Are you doing a lot of like branding and website clients, or is it mainly like branding or web?
Yeah, so like I started out with branding and I had three different packages and single logo design, custom logo design, and the full branding experience, which included strategy, much like how
Yeah.
you started.
Yeah.
And I was finding that a lot of the clients that I was attracting, they would be taking the low tier to mid tier offer. And
Okay.
I really wanted to incorporate that brand strategy. I think that clients like brands really need that, businesses really need that. And I
Yeah.
was finding that a lot did. And
Yeah.
so at first I was taking on branding clients, and now it's more like brand and web clients. And
Okay.
um
Yeah.
a lot of like four, I have probably like four website Shopify clients now too.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so I have some Shopify experience in the past, but
Yeah.
I was able to just kind of like learn a lot more over the last couple months. And
That's
so
awesome.
offering that was like such a big deal. There was a demand for it, so I was like,
There
hey, why
is. Yeah.
not?
Yeah. That's amazing. I have a client in the next couple weeks and we're doing Shopify, and I'm still like I'm a little nervous about it because it's a whole other like beast, I feel like. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
That's amazing though. I feel like that's a good like niche, I guess, to get into is like the Shopify offerings. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have you on. I really just wanted to not only meet you because I feel like we've been DMing for the last like what, like 3 years, four
Oh my
years?
gosh, yeah.
It's
It's
been a
been a
long
while. Two
time.
and a
Might even
half.
be
Yeah.
longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. I just wanted to meet you and connect. One of the things that I really wanted to do was like, because I feel maybe you feel the same way, but now that I'm like in the business and like working with clients and stuff, it's hard to like reflect back on like when we first started and like how how you kind of get rolling with like the graphic design industry.
Mhm.
And I know you're already years in too, but I just wanted to have you on to kind of share like your story and your experience, and like I feel like that's the best way for people to like feel comfortable getting started is when they hear like a similar story, and we all have like a unique story. So I would love to kind of, I feel like I've never even really heard myself too, like how you got started. Like, did
Yeah.
you know you wanted to be a designer when you like started your career? I'd love to kind of just hear your full story.
Yeah. So first off, I'm Andrea Vetick and I own Andrea V Design Co. and I'm a brand and web designer. I guess I have always been creative from a young age. I've always been the
Yeah.
crafty kid. I've always been I just always been so creative and artistic. And so
Yeah.
I honestly like I knew that's always what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But my high school art teacher, she actually encouraged me to pursue art as a career.
That's
And
awesome.
I didn't know like what that looked like, but I knew that was something that I had to do. And I wanted to go to college.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up going shortly after high school to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I'm from Nebraska.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so I moved from my small town to Lincoln to pursue art. And I fell in love with graphic design and I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts with emphasis in graphic design.
Awesome.
And shortly after, well, I got some like internship experience and through like an agency. It wasn't
Very
paid,
cool.
but I was able
Yeah.
to get credits, college credits for it. I worked for a
Awesome.
photographer, so I had some experience, but it wasn't until like a year later, the job market back then this was probably like 15 years ago, so I'm really like aging myself. But
You look so young, so I would never know.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, shortly after college, I
Hmm.
was applying and applying, applying. I knew I wanted to stay in like the Lincoln, Omaha area.
Okay.
And I actually ended up getting a graphic design job in corporate. And I am
Awesome.
still a graphic designer in corporate. I still have that job
Yeah.
nearly 12 years later.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of, there's obviously a lot in between there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing. I feel like it'll be really helpful too because it sounds like you were able to learn a little bit of graphic design in school too. Do you feel
Mhm.
like that like helped you now being in the real world working with clients and stuff? Like, are
So
you
I
using
think
that?
as far as my degree, I think that it really laid the foundation to graphic design and like typography and the fundamentals. And then
Yeah.
I also took other courses like printmaking and ceramics and drawing and like
Awesome.
life drawing and painting. And so
Yeah.
like I've just always been, I mean, I loved all of it. I really loved college. I loved all of the different artistic areas.
Yeah.
And but I really found a passion in graphic design. I was like, okay, I can do this as a career. And
That's
so
so cool.
that's kind of where, that passion sparked. And so yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I feel like I can relate to you with like the photography kind of experience too, like working with the
Mhm.
photographer. Because I feel like when I jumped into that, I was able to kind of learn like, because I feel like photography and graphic design have like similarities with
Yeah.
like white space and just like the placements of things. Did you feel like that also helped you kind of learn more about like graphic design and stuff too?
Yeah, so I do remember taking a film class. So we learned all about the dark room and we got to
Yeah.
expose film like kind of the
That's
old
cool.
school natural way. So we
Amazing.
had a lot of critiques that weren't exactly fun.
Yeah.
Some
I
of them
know
were
it's like
pretty
so
brutal.
hard too because it's also subjective. It's like,
Yes.
yeah,
I
that's really
remember one graphic design instructor. He actually worked for NASA for a while, and
wow.
we had this project that was due. We were doing like poster designs, and
Okay.
this one person, when we got to her stuff, he was like, "Did you do this in an hour? Because it looks like it."
Oh my God.
And I was like, "Oh
So
my God."
harsh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, that prepared me a lot for the real world, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. I know. I totally feel like when I reflect back on college, like I'm grateful for like the kind of experience it gave me. But when I look back on like the art thing, I think it's so hard to like critique because it's just like everyone has a unique style. And I think that's what makes it work and not so competitive is because everyone's so different. So
Hmm.
it's like a weird thing. Like I don't know how an art teacher does it, honestly.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
It would be
Besides like the
difficult.
basics of like, yeah, what looks good and not, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. So did you grow up in Nebraska too and just like stayed for college and stuff?
I did, yeah. So I
Awesome.
grew up in a small town of probably like 20,000 and then yeah, and then I feel like obviously opportunities are a little bit limited as far as I guess the art program in high school wasn't like anything special. I didn't learn graphic design. I didn't have photography. We had ceramics and art and painting, but
Yeah.
I envy the kids that were able to learn and experience photography and graphic design
Yeah.
in even like junior high or high school.
That's so cool. That's
That would
so
have been
cool.
such a great opportunity,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so cool. I feel like it's interesting too. Like I've been thinking about this lately because a lot of my friends and stuff don't really like love what they're doing for work and stuff. And like it's cool to talk to someone that also kind of knew like the path you were going to go down, even from like
Mhm.
a younger age. But like, what would you, I guess, suggest for someone that maybe like is artistic, but they don't know like where to like go with it? Like, I guess, how were you introduced to graphic design? Just knowing that you were drawn to art? Like, was there a class that popped up in college that you were like, oh, maybe I should learn about that? Or,
Yeah, there was a digital art class that I took, and we kind of went through, it was a while ago. So,
yeah.
I think we got introduced to Photoshop, and so we were kind of playing around with different like layering images and objects. And I
Yeah.
remember, I guess, there, I used to be into Incubus quite a bit, the band,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
remember those.
they had an album cover that make the Make Yourself album cover, and it
Mhm.
was very like the cliche kind of like light across the album.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it, but I
I
just
could
remember seeing that
picture what
album
you're
cover and I was
saying.
like, what is that? Like that is
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yeah.
that's graphic design. And
Hmm.
and then that got me thinking about like, well, how was this like album like CD cover created? And
Yeah.
like flipping through the books as a kid, and I just love the artwork and stuff. And so
Yeah.
that kind of like I kind of came full circle a little bit, like, oh, this is what graphic designers do. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
these like CD covers and the booklets inside of them, and like
Yeah.
web design and logos and the apparel that we wear. And then I became obsessed. I was just
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, I love this. And
So cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I took some more advanced courses,
Hmm.
and so yeah.
That's awesome. I know it's funny to think back to like when you kind of change your mindset to view things as like the design of it instead of just like passing by a logo. It's like it
Yeah.
changes everything. It's like menus at restaurants and
It's
signs and
so
stuff.
subconscious to someone that's like the average person. Like
Hmm.
they're not thinking about how something was made or
Yeah.
the really what goes into it. As we are
Yeah.
as creatives and designers, we want to know like the process. How was that done? Like, and
Yes. Yeah.
so yeah.
It's so true. I know it's nice to talk to someone who can relate to that because I'm annoying sometimes we'll be driving. I'm like, I know what font they use for that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I really feel that it'll be helpful to hear too, because I think a lot of people feel that they can just kind of jump into working for themselves and like it's hard. It can be really hard to like feel that pressure of like saying yes to a bunch of things just to like make an income. And it
Hmm.
sounds like you're still doing your full-time job and having clients. So I guess my question is like, how are you balancing the both? And like, how long have you been doing that for?
Yeah, so I guess 2.5 years ago,
Yeah.
I was feeling a little stuck. Things had changed from the pandemic, and um, I was nervous about layoffs. I was nervous about where the economy was going, and I didn't want, because I knew that I had such a unique skill set to where I didn't have, like, I could freelance, and it's like, why am I not doing this? Like, why am I my sole income? Why is that with an employer? Which, I mean,
Yeah.
realistically, you can get let go whenever. And so
Yeah.
that really had me thinking, I need to create some other source of income.
Yeah.
And that's when I found you on YouTube,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I binged all your content, and
Yeah.
I was like, what this girl is doing is amazing. Like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And knew I had this skill set, but the whole like business side of it and how to um like bring the client through the whole process
Yeah.
and I wanted to create a stellar experience for the client. Like I didn't want to start a business and be like all over the place. And so
Yeah,
I took your branding course and that really helped me to organize everything, to lay down a system
that's
um
awesome.
and yeah, and I really resonated with you and your design style and you're extremely genuine, which I really am attracted
Thank
to.
you.
So
Thank you. That's
so
so
thank
sweet.
you.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's amazing. It's funny because like I feel like I didn't know what the YouTube thing would turn into, but I just felt kind of like similar in your situation. I was working at my 9 to 5 and I just felt scared because I knew that like I wasn't guaranteed that spot like forever.
Mhm.
So similar kind of thing. I just like started doing it on the side and then I was like looking at YouTubers online and I couldn't find someone that like had I guess kind of like the style that I like and also like it's very like male dominated, I feel like back then it was.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what inspired me to start doing that. So that's really cool to hear that you found me that way.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah. So
And
do you,
then managing clients, sorry,
yeah, no, go ahead. Go.
managing clients now
Yeah.
is at first it was fun. It was manageable. Like I was working my 9 to 5. I would work on nights and weekends and
Yeah.
actually I guess to back up just a little bit, I also took your WordPress course
Oh,
and
yes. Yeah.
I actually built my whole site and show it.
Yeah.
Did my branding with your branding design process course
Yeah.
and decided, is this really the platform that I want? Like, I
Yeah.
still kind of go back and forth, but when you came out with your WordPress course, I was like, okay, I think if I can learn WordPress, I can pretty
Yeah.
much do any other platform because
Yeah. It's so
I think
true.
WordPress is the most challenging.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I took your course and I worked through it, building my own website. And
That's
then
amazing.
I did passion projects because I wasn't going to use the stuff that I had to design at my corporate job. I
Yeah.
didn't really want to put that in my portfolio, and I don't really think I could have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I was like, well, I want to do something else. I have this other style that's like more feminine and less masculine. And
Yeah.
I want to like pivot and completely do my own thing and have that be
Yeah.
separate from my job. And so yeah, that's what I did. And it probably took me a good 6 months to like really
Yeah.
like design my own brand, like get everything in order. And I know
Mhm.
like everyone says, "Oh, just start somewhere." But like I'm the type of
Yeah.
person that it's like I have to have my stuff together
Yeah.
before I'm taking on clients and they're paying me and
Yeah.
um so yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I know you mentioned like you had to work on like weekends and like was there points too where like after work you're like, all right, let's jump into this passion project and
Yeah, no,
practice and learn.
I would like rush home to
Yeah.
work on my business, and I'm still that way
Yeah.
because it is like I'm so passionate about it, and
It's
I
the
feel like
best.
it, yeah, I feel like it kind of like I don't know, like revitalized my passion a little bit for design. I feel like I got a
Yeah.
little stagnant for a while, and it was okay, 9 to 5, come home, work out, make dinner, hang out
Yeah.
with my husband. And, that I love that. But also, like, I don't have kids. Like, I
Yeah.
don't, and that's my business has kind of become my baby. So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. It's kind of nice to have the freedom and also like change the projects you're working on because I got the same way
yeah.
too when I would be doing the same branding for those corporate companies. It's like redundant. But then when you get those
Hmm.
clients that are so different, it's like, yeah, it does spark something in you where it's like, okay, cool, now I can be super creative.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And I
that's
love
amazing.
learning about the businesses, the clients that
Yeah,
I've worked with. And yeah, it's
yeah,
really been fun.
that's awesome. So I know before I started like recording, you said that now you're like really booked out. You have 10 clients right now. I
Yeah.
think it'll help a lot of people to hear like where you're landing those clients, how they're finding you, if it's like connections or things like that. I'd love to
Mhm.
hear.
Yeah. So honestly, right now, primarily Instagram.
Awesome.
And I have been like boosting posts here and there for over the last like 2 years to grow my account, to attract those clients that I want to work with. I actually have like two random stories that I was
Yeah, I'd
actually
love to
working
hear.
out in a workout class,
Uh-huh.
and I was talking to the girl that was working out beside me, and we were talking about like what we did, and she's like, "Oh, you're a graphic designer?" And I said, "Yeah." And I was like, "I am full time, but then I run my business on the side and do some freelance work." And she's like, she owned a flower farm and her husband did like custom furniture.
That's
And
cool.
she's like, we've been looking for a designer. And I'm like, perfect.
That's
So
awesome.
we
Right
exchanged
place,
business
right time.
cards. Yeah.
That's so
And
cool.
then a couple months later, she reached out and she's like, we're ready. Like, we're ready for some branding.
Oh my
And,
gosh, that's amazing.
and then
So
the
cool.
other client, her husband was a very random story. Her husband was or is an art director, and
Yeah.
he compiled a list of designers for his wife to reach out to. She's an interior designer.
Okay.
She needed new branding and a website.
Yeah.
And she's like, your name stood out to me because my name is also Andrea and it's also spelled the same way
No way.
with the IA at the end.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
And she's like, so I just had to reach out to you. And she's like,
Yeah.
I looked over your website and like I think you'll be a great fit. So I actually booked
Yeah.
her like 2 weeks ago.
That's
And so
awesome.
yeah, kind of crazy, random.
Yeah. That's so cool. It's the craziest things when like people relate to like something like that you say or show and
Mhm.
that's like proof that like just not being afraid to like talk about what you do or like
Yeah,
also not being
yeah.
afraid to bring those business cards wherever you go and like
Yes.
have that website and
And
stuff.
after
So
that, I threw even more in my gym bag because I'm
smart.
like, what?
You never know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that is so cool. I know it always works out that way too. And sometimes it's like that one client then will be the one to like share your name with a bunch of other people. So it's
Yeah,
like, it's so awesome. That's cool to
yeah,
hear. Yeah. But Instagram is like the other connections that you're getting as well. I'd love to hear actually,
yeah.
because I know you DM'd me about like the boosting the posts. Is that really
Hmm.
like effective for you right now?
It
Or
is.
okay.
And people ask, well, because I've shared this with some other creatives too, and they're like, well, but how do you do that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
honestly, so after I got done with working with a few photographers, I was like, okay, I really love working with photographers. Like,
Yeah.
and to do like their website as well because
So
they already
fun.
have great photos.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I took one of my projects and I put it into a reel, like
Hmm.
showing the branding, showing the brand board, the color
Yeah.
palette, all of it, the website design, and listed out like why a photographer would need brand and website design.
Yeah.
And I boosted that for like a couple weeks for like a couple bucks a day. And I got probably at least 5 inquiries, if not more.
That's
And then
amazing.
follows and likes and yeah. So
Wow. Yeah.
and I knew I wanted to work with female photographers in the
Yeah.
US. So then I just boosted it like that
And
and
targeted
yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
so cool. That's good to know. I think it's good to like experiment with like what works and like I think also based on where you're at too, it can really help like to experiment
Mhm.
and see like what hits with people. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
I still have yet to figure out TikTok, but
Oh
to be honest, I
yes.
haven't put much effort into it.
It's one of those things I know. It's yeah. I honestly stopped posting on there the last like 3 weeks because I don't know. It's just like a different crowd. I feel like
Mhm.
it's awesome. Like I've gotten a lot of inquiries from there, but the negativity in the comment sections, I'm like, I don't know.
I
I'd rather put my
agree.
energy somewhere else, but
Yeah,
yeah.
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 I really
It's
love
cool.
Instagram. Yeah. I feel like it
Yeah.
was kind of meant for creatives a little bit. So,
Yeah. No, it definitely
yeah.
does feel that way. And I think Instagram's like the best place to like actually talk with people like in
Mhm.
DMs and stuff. Like I feel like
Mhm.
it's the only platform that I'm on where people are actually like, well, Threads too. I've seen that you're posting on Threads as well. And I think that like Threads and Instagram together, it's like a great place to connect and stuff.
I Threads is kind of still kind of an afterthought to me. I
Yeah, yeah,
definitely a different algorithm. I don't know if I really
yeah,
understand it or will,
yeah.
but yeah,
I
it's been
know.
fun just like kind of sharing your thoughts and
Yeah,
yeah, it's fun.
yeah. It's funny because I'll have a thought during the day and I'm like just in my head about it, but I'm like, oh, I can like share that on Threads now, which is kind of
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Okay, if I wasn't so passionate about the people that are like
Mm-hmm.
connecting with me, then
Yeah.
it'd probably be a little bit easier to say no, but it's like it's been so
Yeah.
hard to say no because like an
Yeah.
interior designer, like a flower farmer, a
Yeah.
photographer, like these are dream clients, like for
Exactly.
me.
I know it's like other creatives, so it's like hard to
Yeah.
say no. Yeah.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
What would you say is like the hardest thing, I guess, like when you started or even now, like having your freelancing business? Is there something you're struggling with now?
Time
Hmm.
and managing my time, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I took your Dubsado course
Oh, yes. Yeah.
and and that has really, so before I was using a PDF, so like a InDesign file for my contracts, and
Okay.
I would be sending the PDF, so there was really no electronic signature
Yeah.
that the client had like easy access to. So that helped so much. Having
Yeah.
a digital or I already kind of had like a solid invoicing system.
Yeah.
But then having like all of that stuff in one spot, because I was
Mhm.
using various different apps. And so that really, Dubsado really helped to kind of just
Yeah.
organize everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it does help to have like not only the time saving like automation with it all, but like having it all in one home. Because I think when I first started too, I would have like folders on all these things where I'm like, okay, I need to go search for that. But now it's kind of nice to have it all in under one roof, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you feel like when you first started that, because I feel like an important thing is people jump into doing it on their own, but I do feel like having a 9 to 5 and like having a job that's like supporting you can allow flexibility with like experimenting and like taking the
Mhm.
time to learn. Because I feel like that's something I admire about you is like even though you went to college and did all that, it's like you're still learning and learning. And I feel
Mhm.
like me too, like there's always new things popping up.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I feel like that's an important thing to know is that like having a job to support you financially so you can build your business to that point is like really helpful. Would you like recommend that to people that are also maybe like wanting to go full time, but like a little bit nervous about the financial kind of outcome of it too?
Absolutely. I think it took that financial stress off of me so that I
Yeah.
could grow to where I am now and really
Yeah.
figure out like exactly what I wanted and
Yeah.
how I wanted to run my business and kind of just take my time and um really kind of think through things. Like I'm not a
Yeah.
quick decision maker.
Yeah.
On certain things I am. It oddly enough seems like design decisions I'm
Yeah.
quick on, but like business decisions, I seem to take my time a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that because I didn't really have to experience like the feast or famine of business, it
Yeah.
definitely has been my full-time job has been a security blanket for sure. And then all this
Yeah.
extra money that I'm making from my business, I have just saved all of it and
That's
reinvested it
amazing.
into courses and learning and all of that. And the I like that you brought up that you know as designers like we are continuously learning, and that's kind
Yeah.
of how I feel. I feel like I'm never like gonna master design because it's ever evolving and there's
Yeah.
always a different way to do things. There's always new programs coming out and
Yeah.
trends change and so yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's funny because I'm in this position now where like when I release the courses, like that was what my process was then. And it changes like all the time. And I feel like for
Mhm.
every designer, it's like you learn something new like every year, and, like every quarter, honestly, of the year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a goal for me is to go back and change like some of those courses to match my new process. But I think that's just like how it works too in the
Hmm.
design world is like things will change, things will come
Yeah.
up and yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cool new tools now that help the process, but
Hmm.
it can be like a little overwhelming to keep up with everything too. It's like I feel like I talk to a lot of people that get stuck and stagnant because they don't know which program to use or like where to begin. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess like what would you suggest for somebody that like is starting out? Like would you suggest that they jump into like some courses or I feel like one of the things that you mentioned about like using your own website to practice is like, I think the best way to do it. Um,
Mhm.
would you suggest that people do that as well and like take the courses and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. And also if you're looking specifically to go into graphic design, I
Yeah.
would definitely recommend learning the fundamentals of design as far as like
Yeah.
typography, spacing, positioning, layout, the different
Yeah.
file formats, like what is a vector file, what is a raster file.
Yeah.
You need to know all of that. And if you're just jumping into Canva and trying to design that way,
Yeah.
those aren't vector files. I mean, most of them are not. And so
Yeah.
that is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's fun to experiment. It's fun to kind of see if you like it, if you enjoy the process, or if it
Yeah.
becomes overwhelming and you're designing for hours and hours and hours and don't really feel like it's something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, I think that just jumping into somewhere and practicing, and obviously there's so much stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Your channel has been awesome.
Thank you.
Um, so
Thank you. Yeah. There's so many amazing, yeah, educators and I feel like I learn best by doing too. So it's like even when I take courses and stuff, I have to be like physically like doing it also to like have it really stick with me. So
mhm,
yeah, it's kind of nice to like follow along when you're like watching those videos and like put it into practice and stuff.
yeah.
Um, but that's amazing. I love to hear like other people's stories and kind of like where they started. And I feel like online it's easy to see like, oh, they just have it now, but it's like it takes years and years and practice and saying yes to things and not being afraid to like you said, like share what you do with random people at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
I'm
amazing.
probably so annoying about it too. Like my husband and I, when we're out, like I'll always bring up my business and
I
or
love
someone
it.
will ask and I'll go on and on and on and
Yeah, well, that's how you know you're passionate, like when you just want to
yes.
talk about it. Yeah. I feel the
Yeah.
same way lately. I'm like, does anyone want to ask me about like work? But then there's
Yeah.
so many people who like don't love work and they just want to like not talk about work.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I totally relate to that.
We're so lucky. Us creatives, I think that we're so lucky that
Yeah.
we experience this like deep passion for what we do and it's so meaningful to us and
Yeah.
I will never take that for granted.
Yeah. And I think that that really shows to clients too that decide to work with you. It's like they can tell when you're like super passionate about it or not. And it
Yeah.
shows through the work too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you. This was super helpful to like hear your
Oh,
story and finally get to like meet you and talk to you.
yeah, you too. This was
Yeah.
great.
Where can people like find you if they want to like see your work and check out like your services and stuff?
Yeah, so my website is andreavdesign.com and also on Instagram, Andrea V Design, and TikTok, Andrea V Design, Pinterest and Facebook.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed hearing Andrea's story. I know that I did. It was so fun to hear from her and talk to a fellow designer that is absolutely killing it. And I love to see designers that I've connected with or that maybe have learned something from my course, just taking that and running with it and just being so successful. She motivated me, and I'm sure that she motivated you guys. So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, I would appreciate it always if you gave it a follow or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go give Andrea some love. She's absolutely killing it. And I'm so grateful that I was able to have her on and that I've able to connect with her and all of you as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all in my next one.